If you've been looking to add a wide-angle lens to your Sony camera kit, but you've struggled with size, quality, and price, then this lens might be a game changer for you. This is the Sony 16-25 f2.8, a new lens for Sony full-frame E-mount cameras, and it costs just under $1,000. In this video, I'll tell you more about this lens, as well as show you lots of sample footage, and compare it to some other wide-angle lens options out there. So third-party makers like Tamron and Sigma have been making these wide-angle alternative lenses that are affordable for quite some time. They're the reason why Sony decided to go into this type of lens, because they saw just how successful they were for other lens makers. But compared to the slightly cheaper third-party alternatives, the Sony 24-50, which I reviewed in another video, and the new 16-25 both have the native Sony lens advantage. Autofocus is spot on, and there's little to no focus breathing. There's also almost no chromatic aberration or color fringing, which is pretty rare to see. Now, compared to its big brothers, the 16-35 f2.8 G Master versions 1 and 2, this lens is a lot more lightweight, compact, and affordable. I don't have the G Master lenses here to compare it to, but I do have my other wide-angle lenses of choice, the 12-24 f4 and the 20mm f1.8. I've always considered it essential to have a wide-angle lens in my kit. Back when I shot Canon, the 16-35 f2.8 was a staple lens for me, and I used it to shoot everything from interiors to concerts. But when I switched to Sony, I decided to go for the wider 12-24 f4 instead, since at that point I was mainly just shooting interiors on a tripod with it, so I didn't really need that f2.8 aperture. While this lens is great, it can be a little too wide at 12mm, causing quite a bit of distortion. And the front part of the lens bulges out, so there's no way to add filters or any kind of protection when you're using it. So it's become my most rarely used lens. Instead, my go-to wide angle is usually the 20mm f1.8. At 20mm, there's little to no distortion, and generally speaking, it's been wide enough to capture what I need. And I also love that fast f1.8 aperture. If you're curious about what handheld vlogging looks like with these lenses, well, let's test it out. First up, we have the 20mm f1.8, and I'm hand holding it, so this is what it looks like. We're gonna try walking as well. Next up is the 16-25 f2.8, shooting at 16mm. Finally, we've got the 12-24 shooting at 12mm. The 16-25 sits in the middle of the 12-24 and the 20mm. It's quite a bit cheaper than the 12-24, but slightly more expensive than the 20mm. It also has a faster aperture than the 12-24, but it's not as fast as the 20mm. In terms of size and weight, it is much smaller and lighter than the 12-24, and quite similar in size and weight to the 20mm. So if you're debating between these lenses and the 16-35 G Master lenses, here's how I would approach it. If you need the best image quality and you don't mind having a heavier, more expensive lens, then the second generation 16-35 f2.8 is the top tier lens to get. Now similarly, you could look at the 12-24 G Master if you need that ultra wide focal length. But if you're looking for a budget wide angle lens, it's hard to go wrong with the 16-25. It covers the 20mm focal range and can even go 4mm wider. And thanks to clear image zoom and APS-C mode, which I have a separate video about, you can actually go beyond that 25mm on the long end. Now for most folks, the f2.8 aperture will be more than enough, offering great bokeh and low light performance. And since this lens is so lightweight, it is great for using on a gimbal. Even when the lens is slightly extended, it doesn't throw off the balance of the camera, so there's no need to recalibrate the gimbal. 16 to 25 comes hot on the heels of the 24 to 50 millimeter f2.8, and it has the same look and nearly the same size. The 24 to 50 is just a hair bigger and heavier. But if you're looking for a pair of relatively affordable f2.8 zoom lenses, this could be really great for your kit. At this point, I'm expecting Sony to also come out with a telephoto zoom lens to make the affordable holy trinity. I don't know anything, I'm just speculating, but it's a logical next step, right?
What do you see?
Why?